Hi, everybody. Welcome back. So today we're going to start with a IT job Zen cone. If a job gives you experience, but you need experience to get a job, how does one get experience? And this is a really common issue that people who are starting off, especially if they're just freshly out of, let's say, college or changing careers, things like that, are going to face. Right. So you look at the job postings on pick whatever your site is. Well, there comes the crazy dog. She's all wound up because I gave her an ice cube. Bits, you being crazy? I'm trying to record a video. So if you're somebody who is trying to re-career, or you're freshly out of school, it's going to be tough to find a job without any work experience. Come here. Can you say hi? Can we kiss? No? Okay. So this is Bits, in case anybody's wondering. I'll let you go. She's being crazy now. So yeah, it's a tough thing, right? You don't have the experience. You just graduated from school, or you're coming from a different background, and you're looking to get into the IT field. So how do you do that? So the first thing to look at is there's a series of rungs that people have sort of traditionally gone through. And so one path is starting with tech support. Tech support is one of those jobs where you can potentially get a tech support job without a huge amount of experience. And this is something that I've actually talked about with a lot of people who are a sort of comparable experience to myself, but more on the development side. And they have a bit of a lament about, which is because IT generally is such a new industry. There was a long period of time when most of the people in the field didn't have college experience because computer science was really new. And, so the people who were working in the field had electrical engineering background, they had mathematics background, but they didn't have computer science backgrounds. So as the field evolved, what you saw was a lot of people who came up went through a hierarchy where they started off in tech support, they moved on to systems administration, and maybe did that while they were in college. And if you're somebody who's in college and you're on a CS career path, or an MIS career path, something along those lines, I think that's still a really good strategy, because you can pick up basically equivalent to a regular part-time job, but you can be getting work experience while you're doing it. And the big lament that these folks have is that people who come out of school with just a CS degree, well, they know a lot about algorithms and they know a lot about the sort of theory of programming. But what they oftentimes are missing is an understanding of how things fail. And that's really, really, really useful. I'll see this when I look at people's code, and they'll do things like have die statements in their code a lot when they're, writing stuff for a service. And if you hear her whining, she's fine. She just wants to play right now because she's all hopped up on ice cubes. And her energy level goes like a million times when I give her an ice cube. I shouldn't have done that before filming the video. So yeah, they'll have die statements in code that's there to go run the backend for some kind of service, and you don't want to do that in that kind of program. If it's a desktop application and you have some kind of weird condition, well, maybe you can die in that thread will fail or whatever, and they can restart the application. But in a service, what you want to go do is you want to queue stuff up, because probably the reason why you're dying is because it's either invalid input, or your resource is unavailable, like your database has gone away. Like, so what's the thing that you want to go do? So if you spend a couple of years in tech support, you're going to have a really good understanding of the kinds of things that fail and how that manifests itself. Now, I know that this channel is probably going to be more focused on IT and Linux admin and storage admins and people like that. But still good to keep in the back of your mind, because if you're going to be a sysadmin, according to my definition of a sysadmin, you should know how to code. It may not be what you do every day, but you should know how to do it. So, I'm sorry, I might sneeze. And I'm probably going to leave that in the video because I'm too lazy to edit these things. So yeah, you should know how to code, right? So that's one way to get experience. That's a really way too long diatribe of, hey, tech support's an option. So look for those kind of jobs as opposed to just going directly into a sysadmin gig. The next possibility is, if you're somebody who's still in maybe like high school or college, is to getting a gig in the lab, right? So either volunteering if you're in high school, or a paid gig if you're in college, tuition reimbursement kind of thing, but you work in the computer lab. So that's experience. So that's your second option. Once we start getting past that, you got to get a little bit more creative, right? So let's say you're somebody who's re-careering. Well, one of the things that you can do is put a post on Facebook or Twitter or your favorite social network, or however, just tell your friends, right, that you are going to start doing very low cost consulting. You're going to do tech consulting. It's going to be very, very, very low rates. So it'll be $10, $20, stuff like that. And the reason why you're doing this is so that you can get experience re-careering. What's going to happen is that people are going to find out that someone in their community that they have some direct or indirect connection to is doing really, really, really cheap consulting. And what's going to happen is, A, you're going to get inundated with requests for this pretty quickly. And then B, it's going to lead you to having to increase your rates, right? So one of the best ways to get a job is hire yourself. Nobody else will hire you. Hire yourself. Now, you may not feel comfortable doing that. You may not have enough experience. Well, that's a good indication that you need to get more experience. The other way to do it is to do it for free, right? So if you really feel like, all right, I'm not capable of doing this yet, do it for free. Now, the issue that you might have with that is most people have Windows and Mac computers. Generally, they don't have Linux laptops and desktops and things like that. So you will be getting experience, but if your goal is to become a Linux admin, well, a lot of that experience is not going to be relevant. However, a lot of it will be. So if you then couple that with, a certification, I've got a Red Hat certification, and I've been, fixing laptops for the last, 2.5 years, and, doing desktop troubleshooting and all this kind of stuff. And maybe you work your way up into the small businesses. Okay. All right. Well, if I'm somebody who's hiring, well, I'm probably not going to start you off with a senior site reliability engineering position, but for a junior admin to get your foot in the door, okay, we can talk about that. That's on the table. Another option that you might want to go look at is volunteering, right? So there's a number of organizations and groups in every area that need help with tech stuff. volunteer. Just call around. I don't know what your particular issue is, but most people have some kind of issue that's near and dear to their heart. I'm not going to get into politics and endorse one thing over another. So just look at what's available in your environment. Maybe there's a local school or nonprofit that needs help. Well, volunteer your time. When they say 5 years experience, um, they're not looking at how many hours a week you were doing. It's just like, do you have experience for 5 years? Oh yeah, a couple hours a week I was going and helping out at my local blah blah blah. That's experience, right? Again, that alone may not get you the a gig, but if you go combine that with some additional training, and you say, oh well, the last few years I've taught myself Python, and I've built a few Linux servers and things like that. So here's another one. A lot of people need a website, and if you go look at, let's say, a Amazon light sale, right? Amazon light sale is a sort of a lower resource. It's sort of limited in how much bandwidth it has and kind of resources. But it's the same idea of a EC2 instance, right? It's a compute instance in the cloud. You could go set up an Amazon EC2 instance and then put a post on, again, your favorite social network and say, I'm going to be doing web hosting. And this web hosting is going to cost you $5 a month. Same thing as, a Squarespace or whatever it is, right? You can even make it lower, right, than $5 a month. Heck, you could say, I'm going to do this for free, and we'll make you sign a little contract that, if you go over whatever the bandwidth limits for the light sale account is, I forget what it is off the top of my head, but if you go over the bandwidth limits, or you spike the resources, whatever it is, then I'm going to charge you whatever it costs, right? But you set up, cPanel, you set up shared hosting. Maybe if you want to get advanced, you could set up Docker. Okay, now you're running an ISP. You're running a web hosting service. Right? Now, the really important thing that I would note is, when you start to go in an interview, don't lie about this stuff. Don't say, oh yeah, I was running this giant web server. No. Say, well, I know I'm relatively new to this. I'm at a junior level, but what I wanted to go do was get some experience. So I decided I was going to do whichever one of those things you want to go do, right? And what's going to happen is you're not going to get yourself into trouble by overpromising and setting unrealistic expectations. Instead, you're going to underpromise, and hey, you might be better than they were expecting. That's awesome. But you're also showing that you're a go-getter. You're somebody who's going to go figure out a way to do something and come across a solution to these kind of things. That's pretty interesting. So those are some different ways to try to get experience. But the last one, I think, is probably the most important. And this is just going to echo something that we've talked about before in a previous one of these videos, which is have a home lab. Have a home lab. If I'm interviewing somebody, I basically break it up into two phases, right? I do a personality interview, chat with them, we'll sit down and have lunch, see if there's a personality fit with myself and the person that I'm interviewing, and maybe introduce some other people on the team and things like that. So trying to get a feel for who they are, right? And then the second piece, and not everybody does interviews like this. In fact, this is kind of a rarity. But the second piece is I'm going to give them a laptop, and I'm going to say, here's a list of tasks, right? I'm going to leave you alone for an hour, get those tasks done, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So, that's the technical part, right? I'm not going to riddle them with brain teasers and stuff like that. I don't like those kind of interviews myself. And I find that, there's a lot of people that aren't particularly social, um, and they're still very good, resources. So I think that's a better way to do interviewing. That's getting off topic. But one of the questions that I do ask during the sort of personality phase is like, tell me about your lab. What does your lab look like? And if they say I don't have a lab, mm, I may or may not be interested in hiring them. It's possible I'll still hire them, but it's a lot less likely. I'll tell you that. Um, if they say, well, I don't really have a lab anymore, but they do what I do, which is, I've got like a home NAS and some switches and stuff like that, but I don't really consider that a lab. I run my own servers on Amazon and, host my own web server and mail servers and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of, something that I'll play with. And for me, every couple of years I'll switch it out, and I'm going to run, Ubuntu, and then I'll switch it over to OpenSUSE, and then I'll jump back to CentOS, then I'll go to Debian, I switch it up, and that's sort of a playground for me. But it's a place where I can go ahead and do things. So the idea is you're trying stuff, right? But you want to have some kind of thing. So if you're somebody who doesn't have experience, if you're somebody who wants to get into tech and build that, well, I think those are some possible ways to go about doing it. So the other piece of this, and I need to start mentioning this because this is one of the reasons that I sort of thought about doing this channel to begin with, is if I go show you guys my desktop, switch over to here. There we go. This is FastlaneUS.com, and this is one of the companies that I do training through. So if you're relatively new to things, basically the stuff that I teach is NetApp. NetApp is Enterprise Storage Systems, so I teach a lot of our storage classes, including things like hybrid clouds and stuff like that. And then the other stuff that I'm teaching is SUSE. So I think for a lot of folks, especially given the fact that IBM just bought Red Hat, if you're interested in some Linux classes, this might be an option for you. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This may not be what you want to do, especially if you're in the early part of your career. These classes are expensive compared to like, in Udemy or, one of those kind of things, but they're instructor led, right? So you've got, me for a week, basically. It's a boot camp style. So, 8 hours a day. So stuff like that. So if you're interested in training, I'm not going to, tell you to take classes. But if you are, and you were thinking about doing that anyway, one of the options is to do them with me. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that makes it a little bit easier if you're trying to go figure out how to get experience in IT without having worked in the industry already. The other thing I wanted to do is just say thank you guys so much. There's been a lot more interest in these videos than I was expecting. And it's been really, flattering and cool. The other reason why I'm mentioning the training thing is I do a lot of the NetApp training, right? So NetApp pays my bills, right? That's basically what pays my mortgage and all that kind of stuff. I make a lot less money on the Linux classes. I like the idea of doing Linux training. I feel like it lets me sort of give back a little bit. So that's why I'm shilling these, is that I did Ubuntu certification classes when they were first starting their kind of thing off. And the sales guys just didn't sell it. It was great classes, good material, but they either just didn't know how to find the demand for it, or they were just not interested in it because they could make more money on, the enterprise kind of stuff. So I'd like to get the Linux stuff going, because I think that'd just be really cool. If you're taking a NetApp class, you probably are already established. You already have a career. the Linux stuff, you can give somebody a career. So that's much more rewarding for me. So anyway, I wanted to say thank you guys for watching these videos. Hopefully we'll see you in another one. Um, Comments are really cool. I'd love to get feedback on what you guys are interested in hearing about in terms of topics. Questions that you guys have that I could potentially answer would be really cool. And if you you know, want to like the video, share it with your friends. That'd be really cool. Um, this is all new to me. I don't really know how the you know the YouTube promotion kind of stuff works. I'm surprised that people have watched my videos more than like 100 times, and you know that I've got this many views already. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and have a great rest of your day.